So my name is Christina. I work for Pretty Chimney Solutions. I've been doing chimneys for about 21 years now. There's really nothing chimney you can't ask me and I can't help you with. I'd like to start with some questions and situations that you guys have seen over the years and over your inspections, things that kind of stumped you or red flags that maybe you've came across that you're unsure if this is something you should flag, if this is something you should say. I know your boilerplate template says, you know, all new home buyers should have a level 2 chimney inspection, right? I had someone ask me earlier, is it true that you have to have a level 2? Yes, indeed. It is true that you need a level 2 safety inspection when purchasing a new property. Why? Because there's a lot of things that people do in their home that their handyman or the handy husband decided to try to take on themselves, right? It's not the original construction or the original brick that was up on the wall for 50, 60 years. Does anyone here have any questions or online? Nope. Okay, great. We'll get started. Okay, a little bit about me. So I'm the Vice President of Sales for Pretty Chimney Sweeps. I've been doing it for about 20 years. I've been a certified chimney sweep since 2012. I began learning masonry. My grandfather was a mason in upstate New York, and in the summers I used to get shipped there. And I used to do project management, all different types of masonry, large masonry projects for commercial jobs, hospitals, shopping centers, all that kind of stuff. My passion right now is I love to travel. I'm finally at the stage in my life where I can travel. And I have a young daughter that I love to go to the beach with all the time. I do have a passion for interior design. I have a very, very good eye. I can literally pull up in the driveway and already see like 40 defects. And some clients say, Christina, you're here for the chimney. Stop pointing out everything to me. I don't want to know about it. So, and I love fixing complex problems. I am a problem solver. There's really nothing you can throw at me that I can't give you a solution in probably 7 minutes. All right, so about Pretty. Pretty was founded in 1982. We are family owned and operated. We are female led. So all of our execs, all the big decision makers are women. We are all not, someone said, oh, are you in the office all the time? No, I am probably in the office maybe 2 to 3 hours a week. Other than that, I run about 5 to 7 service calls a day. I do all of our complex situations, commercial projects, very weird situations. Maybe my guides might have gone and they said, I don't know what to do here. Send Christina. We do offer chimney restoration, chimney repair, normal sweeping, normal inspections. We do a lot of complex or fixing chimney situations from other companies that tried to guess on what to do or thought selling this would be good for them. We also do full masonry construction and restoration work historically. So we do a lot of historic tuck pointing, restoration work, lime mortar work, that kind of stuff.
So Christina, you asked about if anybody online had a question, and a second later, a question came in.
All right, let's hear it.
I imagine you're probably going to get to it anyway.
It's okay. It's okay.
But the question was just a definition of the difference between level 1, level 2, and maybe even go on to level 3.
Yep. Yeah, okay. We're going there. So topics for today, chimney inspection. Can they see this? They can see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So chimney inspections, level 1, 2, and 3, what the differences are. Presence of moisture in a chimney, evidence of backdrafting, appliance venting. We have a lot of questions about that. Typical masonry flaws and larger structural issues. We will get started. Chimneys are interconnected systems which require parts and function properly. Now, types of chimneys. I'm sure all of you have seen what a masonry chimney is, what a stone chimney looks like, and what a prefabricated chimney looks like. All right. Anyone have an idea which one is the worst commonly that you see? Prefabricated fireplaces. Why are they the worst? They are galvanized metal double wall pipe, either freestanding popping right out of the roof or inside what we call a chase. This is two prefabs inside of a chase. This chase looks like it's in really good condition with a new chase cover. What are some problems you might identify from a chase cover? Say that again? Rust. Okay. Rust is the #1 problem. Water and rust. Why? Because most chase covers are galvanized metal on the top of the roof. And usually what you see is galvanized metal that sinks down in the middle between the flues, and that pools water. Okay, where's that water going? Down. It's trickling right down. So prefabricated fireplaces are most commonly the ones that have the worst amount of damage and that are really, really not.
Ooh, that's me, sorry.
It's all good. All right. Prefabricated fireplaces have a shelf life. Does anyone know what the shelf life is on prefabricated fireplaces? Huh? Good job. 20 years. 20 years. So if you walk into a house and the house is 25 years old, guess what? That chimney is probably done. All right. You have a question back there? No, it needed to be replaced 5 years ago. Right. So why do we say 20 years? Because galvanized metal can sit outside in the elements, right, for but so long before it starts to rust, before the double wall pipe that lines inside of this chase, before the seams start to warp, right? You can open the damper from the bottom of a prefabricated fireplace and immediately identify. Take your that really nice flashlight you got. Yep. So prefabricated fireplaces usually have grates on the upper section and on the lower section of the prefab. If you stick your flashlight inside those grates, the first thing you're going to see is evidence of water, rust on the top of the box. So a prefabricated fireplace is a triple wall metal box inserted into a 2x4 framed wall. No insulation. If you're lucky, you'll find insulation, but usually there's no insulation. And on the inside, it's just 3 pieces of stone and fill the gap between the metal box and the framing. When the pipe seams on these units deteriorate and they're burning a fire inside, that chase will go up in flames in less than 4 minutes. Okay, so prefabricated fireplaces, you need to make sure you're documenting whatever kind of water and rust that you do find and recommend and put in your notes. You know, chimney has exceeded its lifespan. Have a level 2 safety inspection performed. Okay. If you're really close and friendly with your realtors, they're not going to like it. Okay. Because a prefab replacement is a very costly repair. Masonry chimney. Any questions with prefabs? We're going to go into it a little bit more later, but any initial questions with prefabs? Yes, sir.
Very costly repair. Any estimates on what that?
Yeah, sure. So if you have a chimney like this one that has 2 flues, if the homeowner has installation manuals, and you should always ask this for any fireplace that they have, if you have the install manual for your gas log, your prefab, your electric fireplace, whatever, please pull it out. Okay. Now, this installation manual will immediately tell you that these two flues should have never been that close at the same height. Okay, so immediately, if we were going to do a level 2 safety inspection, and this house is 32 years old, we're going to fail it without seeing anything else. Okay, you can usually find the data plate of a prefab up in the inside cavity. If you move the screen and look up, you'll see a data plate. It will be rusted. You need to wipe it off a little bit and take a picture. That will give you the model number. If you want to help them figure out what model number, look up the installation manual, all of that. So the answer to your question, how much does it cost? It roughly costs between $15,000 and $20,000 to replace one prefab. If this house has two, that's about a hefty price tag, right? That they're going to go negotiating with the sellers. Okay, you can get a cheaper model, and you could go down as low as $12,000, but it really depends on the size of the prefabs. A lot of the prefabs that we're seeing that are needing to be replaced are weird sizes, like a 38 or a 42, and they don't make 38 anymore. So you'll have to downsize to a 36 or a 42. Yes.
Christina, how much does the use affect the life of it? Like we see a fireplace, I mean, the house could be 25 years old, but it's never been used.
Good question. So use does play a big factor into it. You know, we had a client that was from Vermont that moved into a house that had a prefab, and they were used to burning a wood stove their entire life. Okay, so they piled 6, 7 pieces of wood into a prefab and burned it for a year before they ever called anyone. All right, they almost burnt their house down. All right, prefabricated fireplaces, if they're not being used, they are more than likely in worse shape than the ones that were being used. Okay, why? Same with the masonry chimney. They're kind of being dried out when they get used, right? If there's moisture in the chase, if there's moisture in between the pipes, whatever that may be, it does help when you're using the chimney, right? I just went to a house, what was it, Thursday? Prefabricated fireplace. I told the guy before I even looked, you know, the chance that you're going to need to replace this is about 95%. I got royally shocked. I sent a camera up there. It maybe was used one time in its entire life. The pipe was in perfect condition. The only defect I found was the chase cover. The chase cover was puddled and had a pool of water, and it hadn't rained in, you guys know how long it hasn't rained, 30 some days, right? And it still had a pool of water sitting on top of that chase. But I told that guy, well, in most cases, I would tell you need to replace your chimney, right? In this case, I'm going to let it go. But they wanted to put a $10,000 stone facade in front of this prefabricated fireplace. And I told him, I said, look, I'm not finding defects, but I'll tell you, before you spend a fortune putting this gorgeous facade on, you might really want to consider that this is at the end of its shelf life. And if you really plan on using it, if I do have to take it out in 5 years, I will take it out from the back. So most people are like, huh? You take it out from the back. You have to remove the siding, remove the plywood, cut the wooden chase, and you can remove it from the back if they spent all this money redoing the facade. So I don't know if I answered the question, but it can still be okay even if it wasn't used, but you really need to have it inspected. Okay, yes.
A couple of times I've gone in and gone through that exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a rusted top,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, oh, we can just replace the top.
Mm-hmm.
This tops we can't mix and match tops between vendors, or so I've been told.
You're talking about the cap.
Yes.
Okay, so this piece right here is called the chimney cap. That is a UL listed part that goes with the pipe that is UL listed for that unit. You cannot switch the cap on a prefabricated fireplace. You will break the UL listing, and then if there is a fire or God forbid something happens to that chimney and insurance gets involved and we have an insurance inspection or insurance audit, they can deem that the chimney had aftermarket parts on it, and that may be the reason. Probably not, but you're not supposed to change it. So our company policy is that we do not change caps. the chimney flue cap. We do change the chase cover, okay? Some people say, well, I don't want to replace the chase cover. I mean, I don't want to replace the unit. Can you just shut it down? And this is a very common question. We are going through a lot of boards with HOAs that have multiple prefabs and 380 townhouses community. And, you know, half of them say, I want my chimney working. The other half says, shut it down. What's the right way to shut it down is the question. Very, very good. So we are in debates now, and I'm telling you this because you may see it. A proper shutdown of a flue is to remove this top section of pipe, drop it below the chase, if they don't want to spend the money to take it out, okay? But how do you know as a home inspector that it's closed down from the top? How can you tell? So how we do it is if we take the pipe section down from the outside and we put a flat chase top on the top, we metal plate the entire throat so you can't get in it. So if somebody, say you sell the house and somebody walks and say, oh, we have a wood burning fireplace, let's burn. As soon as they go to look up to open the damper, they can't. Right? That's an option that people are asking for because they don't want to pay the money to remove it or replace it. So make sure you're looking up in there, and when you go to the top, or if you go on the roof or you send your drone up, if this is a flat top chase, the only options it could be is there's a vent-free gas that somebody put in there. They had a prefab, but they put an electric insert inside of it. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But for us, if somebody asked us to shut down the flue, and it's been a common question that we had to have an engineer actually write up a whole letter that says exactly how to do it. So what's happening is we are throat plating the bottom, and we are removing or capping the flue at the top permanently and flat chasing the top. Okay? Did that answer the question? Okay. So this is called the chase cover, and this is called the flue cap. If you drive in the neighborhood and you see, and what you'll commonly see is these square caps on top of prefabs. If the whole neighborhood has square caps on top of their prefab, but your client has a round cap, either the prefab was changed or they put an aftermarket cap on it. Make sure you notate that. Okay. So we talked about, well, we didn't, we talked about prefabs, but the first picture here is a masonry fireplace. It's actually CMU block with a brick facade on the outside. On the inside, it's a stone facade, and that is called a herringbone firebox with fire brick. Now, anyone see an issue with that fireplace? Okay, fireplace height versus width. If the fireplace is taller than the width of the fireplace, more than likely it doesn't draw properly. Okay, they spent a lot of money, if you want to be technical, $67,000 to build that masonry fireplace. All right, but no, the handyman or the contractor didn't know firebox proportions versus flue size. Okay, the next one here is a prefabricated zero clearance fireplace with a makeover. So most prefab fireplaces that you see, you'll see grates here and grates here. This customer did change their prefabricated fireplace, and they had a new facade put on. They covered their grates. Pay very close attention to the facade finishes. Lately, we've been seeing a lot of facade finishes where you go into the masonry fireplace and you look in around where the hearth meets the firebox. Look where the facade meets the fireplace front edge, and look up between the facade and the lintel of the fireplace. Out of 10 fireplaces, you will find one that has framing, drywall, cement board, or some sort of combustible material that the handyman used to put on a beautiful facade. Any questions? Types of fireplaces. The first one is open gas logs. The next one is a gas fireplace insert. The third picture here is a wood stove inserted into a masonry fireplace. Does anyone know the difference between open gas logs and a gas insert? Everyone understands when they see a gas fireplace that has a fixed glass front, that is a gas insert. Gas inserts need electrical to function. So 9 out of 10, if you take the faceplate off of that gas fireplace, you will find open live wires next to the fireplace. Open gas logs. Popular conversion 7 years ago. Everybody wanted to convert their wood-burning fireplace to gas logs because it was a fad. I have to click a button. I just want to sit on my couch and have a remote and click a button. You ready for this? In the past 5 years, we've had more than 56% of people asked to reverse. I'm sure all of you know about the electrification happening in Montgomery County. I don't know, some of you probably aren't from Montgomery County, but they are trying to ban gas in Montgomery County. So everyone says, oh, well, I want to remove my gas logs and I want to go back to wood. What does that entail? Well, there's a lot of gas fireplace companies out there that will sell gas logs to a homeowner without having an inspection. They just want to sell them logs. And Miss Jones may say, yeah, well, I had a chimney company come out here and they told me I needed $10,000 worth of work in order to put gas logs in. So I don't want to do that. I just want to put vent-free logs in because I don't need a vent. This is where most homeowners are majorly confused because not everyone in the industry guides the client correctly. We have a company policy that we do not service, replace, maintain, or touch vent-free logs because we do not believe that they are vent-free. Okay? They're not. So what happens is we go into homes and the damper's fully closed. They have a vent-free set sitting in their firebox, masonry chimney. I won't name names. But they just walked into a storefront and said, I want that. And they come and they put it in. They don't check the fireplace. So if you see vent-free logs, then how can you tell? There is a tag that is on the gas burner that's behind the gas burner, a metal tag about this big, that if you look at it, it will tell you vented or vent-free logs. If they are vent-free logs, I highly suggest you have your client have once again, a licensed chimney contractor come and perform a level 2 inspection. Okay, because somebody put in a gas log and said, oh, don't worry about that $10,000 repair that the last person told you about. We'll put the gas logs in for you. Have you ever walked into a client's house and the entire family room crown molding was black? Whoa. They have vent-free gas logs and they don't need a vent. They don't need a chimney to have those logs. So make sure you're checking the log burner type. Okay? if you guys, the most popular log for the past 12 years was an R.H. Peterson real fire gas log set. Okay, it's very easy to look up on their website. If it says a G10 burner, G9 burner, G12 burner, whatever, the single digit burners are vent free. The double digit burners are vented. Okay. Fireplace inserts. So people had an open masonry fireplace. They wanted to convert to gas. So they converted to a gas insert. Why do people pick a gas insert over gas logs? Because they think they're going to get more heat output. Right? Because it's in a box, it's gas logs in a metal box that inserts into the masonry fireplace. Right? But it hooks up to electrical and gas and has a blower mechanism inside the box that pumps the heat out into the room. How often are you supposed to maintain gas logs or a gas insert? You are supposed to have an inspection of your unit yearly. That is correct. Wood stove. How often are you supposed to clean that? Well, what if you burn 4 cords of wood? So when you're having your home inspection and you ask the customer, so how often do you burn? Oh, we use this as our primary heat source. Okay, that probably means that they burn 2 to 4 cords a year. Okay, if that is the case, a cleaning is needed after every cord. If their wood is fully dry, now you can, when you're walking around the property, you're going to find that pile of wood. Is it covered? Is it on a rack out back, you know, half a mile from the property? Is it in a shed? Is it in the garage? Where's the wood? If the wood is fully dried and kilned, technically it will self-clean. It still needs to be cleaned yearly. You're going to get those people that think that their wood stove self-cleans, cleans itself. I burn such good wood and so much wood, and I have the most high efficient EPA rated stove. I don't need to clean it. Yes, they do. Okay. Now, what about a chimney? This is a wood stove that you can clearly see. You can't see from this picture, but it has a liner going up the chimney. What about those big old stoves that are in basements that are slammed into the firebox? We call those slammers. Slammers, 90% of them will not be lined. The reason for that is if you take off the trim kit around the wood stove and you just peek in there, usually they have a rectangular fitting on the back of the stove. You can't someone can fabricate a rectangle to round adapter, but there's no way to adapt that rectangular thing to the stove unless you penetrate the stove or you use a whole bottle of that red fireproof caulk, which eventually will come off. So we also do not line older stoves. We have had a lot of customers say, I found this stove on Facebook Marketplace and it fits my firebox and I'd like you to come put it in for me. No. It's not because we don't want to sell them a stove. It's because those existing older stoves usually were used very heavily and they're really not safe. They were inserted into someone's firebox, not lined. And if you look at that chimney from the top, if you can't pull out that stove and look, it's okay. Take a picture from the top down. And I guarantee you there's so much glazing creosote in there. You'll understand why once you take a picture down the flue. Any questions? Chimney inspections. All right. A level 1 chimney inspection. All right. So level 1 inspection is if someone says, hey, I'd like to have my chimney inspected, I want to put tile on my chimney. I'm wondering why I have ivy growing up the side of my chimney. Okay, a level 1 inspection is a visual inspection with no tools. I walk to a customer's house, I look around, I come into their fireplace, I look up, but I don't have a flashlight, I don't have a screwdriver, I don't have a camera, right? I'm just visually checking the chimney for any defects that I may find. A level 2 inspection is for home sale. If you are selling or buying the home, you have to have a level 2 inspection. A level 2 inspection includes a camera, where a camera goes up the chimney, does a full 360 at every single seam or every single joint between the terracotta tiles. Okay? If somebody calls and says, hey, I have wood burning, but I'd like to convert to gas, it's a level 2 inspection. If someone calls and says, hey, we just had a really bad storm and the neighbor's tree fell on my chimney, that is a level 2 inspection. Are we having questions? Okay. So why? Why is a level 2 important? A level 2 is a deeper dive into it. It's not just looking, it's investigating. We put cameras up the flue. We check to see if in a masonry chimney, there's terracotta clay. The terracotta clay tiles are how tall? 24 inches. Every 24 inches, there's a joint. More than likely, there's not. There's a gap, okay? If that chimney has multi-flue, so we have one chimney that has 3 flues, a fireplace on the first floor, a fireplace in the basement. The 3rd flue is for what? The furnace, boiler, or hot water heater, okay? With a level 2 inspection, we're going downstairs. We're checking the boiler. Excuse me, we're checking the hot water heater. Maybe 6 months ago, they upgraded to a high efficient furnace. But the company that they hired for that high efficient furnace didn't tell them that they're orphaning their hot water heater and that they need to do something, because it was Bob's cousin that put in the new high efficient furnace, and they didn't pull a permit. If you pull a permit, you have to line the hot water heater flue. There's many cases where I go to people's houses and I say, look, if you're going to take your boiler out, you might as well take your hot water heater out too and upgrade to tankless. Well, why? Because you're going to pay $2,500 for a chimney liner for a hot water heater that's already 15 years old that you're going to have to change in 2 to 3 years. Why not just fully orphan the chimney, or go with a 80% furnace where your furnace and your hot water heater are going to use the chimney if you're going to invest in a chimney liner for your appliances? Fuel change, what does that mean? So they have an oil boiler or an oil furnace, I'm sorry. Oil furnace, but they want to convert to gas. That chimney, not just the appliance flue, but the entire chimney structure needs a level 2 safety inspection. Why? Because you cannot pipe a gas furnace into a terracotta that's had oil soot inside of it, probably never cleaned. Oil soot transfers because there's gaps in that terracotta. So now the fireplace in the basement right next to it also has oil soot in it. So that is the reason why a fuel change needs a level 2 inspection. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to move to level 3. A level 3 inspection means we cameraed the inside of the prefab. We saw light coming between the pipe. And it's an insurance claim. And we want to investigate further to see if there's any burns or any signs of fire in the chase. So we need to do a level 3 inspection. And what that means is we need to go to the roof. We need to remove the chase cover. And we now need to camera inside the chase between the pipe and the chase to see if we see any defects inside the chase. Questions? Another example of a level 3 inspection. We look up the fireplace flue. And in the smoke chamber area, we see the furnace flue. We need to cut a hole in the smoke chamber to identify if there's transfer of gases or anything like that. Anytime we need to open something up, break something, cut into, or dig a little deeper, that is called a level 3 inspection. Any questions? If you don't have one, you can order an NFPA 211 book. It will break all of this down for you as far as clearances to combustibles for fireplace, vents, and solid fuel burning appliances. It is very hard to get this NFPA 211 book. It is usually on back order on Amazon, but you can find it.
Excuse me, can you give me the cost of a level 1, level 2, and level 3 inspection?
All right. The importance of an inspection kind of touched on all this.
Do you get that, Christina? She was asking about the cost difference between the 3 different levels.
Sure. Okay. A level 1 inspection is $199. A level 2 inspection is $299. A level 3 inspection is $699.
Would that be the $700?
$99. Prices will vary depending on companies. Level 3 inspection can vary as far as pricing. It depends on the company. It depends on how much they're opening. It depends on what's needed for that level 3.
The NFPA documentation is available read only
Okay.
for free if you go to the NFPA site. You
Yep.
can't print it. You can't do anything. You can just look at it.
Yes. It's good to download it on your iPads if you guys have them. Okay. So one of our company policies is that we will not sweep. So we get a lot of phone calls. Hey, I'd like to have my fireplace swept. How much does it cost? Well, we're gonna need to inspect. I don't want an inspection. I just want you to sweep the soot out of my wood stove. Well, ma'am, I'm sorry. We perform inspection every time we clean. Why is that? Because if we sweep your chimney and then we tell you, you need about $12,000 worth of work, you're going to be pissed. Right? Why did I just spend $399 for you to sweep my chimney and inspect it? And now you're telling me I need to spend $10,000 to make it working, and you're telling me I'm not allowed to use it anymore. Okay, so our company policy is we do a cleaning and a sweep. I'm sorry, a sweep and an inspection. We inspect the chimney first. If we don't see any visual defects, we will then sweep the chimney. Okay, a lot of times, if you sweep the chimney and it was working last night and we swept it today, what happens when you take all that soot out of the pockets between the terracotta flues? It starts to back puff or backdraft, right? And then who are they blaming? We're getting blamed. Our company policy is we inspect first, we sweep if we find no defects. Common defects that we find. So the first picture shows a lot of black stains along the top of the fireplace. What is that evidence of? Backdraft. Do you see anything else wrong with that chimney? Huh? Say that one more time. Yeah, exactly. The firebox is too tall. You're going to see a lot of it in DC, Alexandria, and Arlington. Why? Older houses, they were usually had a coal insert in them. All right. Like one of those cradle inserts. And then somebody pulled it out and said, oh, we have a chimney. Let's burn some wood. All right. That is correct. The height of that opening is greater than the width. That chimney probably also doesn't have a liner. Even if it did have a liner, it would not fully fix it. What would fully fix this? You could put an insert. Adjust the lintel height. If the lintel height got brought down 3 courses, that chimney will work just fine after it's lined. So we have another company around. Well, chimney fans. Just put a chimney fan on it. It will suck it all out. If you see a chimney fan, does anyone know what a chimney fan looks like? All right. It looks like a little round globe on top of the flue. If there's a chimney fan, guess what there's not? A damper. Okay? If there's no throat damper, usually there's not, and they put a fan on, how are you closing that flue? You're not. Okay? Usually, if there's a fan, there's a cable that runs all the way down the chimney or fish through the attic or who knows where it came from. And then there's a little switch next to the fireplace to turn it on and off. I will tell you that the last 4 chimney fires that we have gone to were fan related. You want to know why? Because there's a company out there that likes to put 6-inch liners inside of 13 by 13 terracottas and sell a fan. Well, guess what happens? It sucks it out, but only for so long, until that flue fills up with creosote. It looks great from the bottom, but the top 3 feet is caked. Guess what's also caked? The fan blades. So if you have a customer that has a fan on the top of their chimney, they need to show that they've been having someone come yearly, because if you look at the Enervex, most of the chimney fans, guys, are made by a company called Enervex, okay? And the Enervex chimney fans in the installation manual says that the fan blades and motor needs to be cleaned annually to keep the warranty. How many people put on that chimney fan thinking that they just spent $12,000 on a fan and a 6-inch liner and they don't need to do anything anymore because it sucks it all out? Okay? The chimney fans are, how they've been being sold in our area is actually very sad because it doesn't fix the problem. It fixed the problem temporarily. They can use the fireplace. The smoke doesn't come flying back in their house. But the buildup and the fan blades and the creosote on the fan blades is a huge hazard. So if you are on the roof and you do see the fan, please make note for them to either clean, inspect, or check the fan blade motor to make sure it's operating properly. The next and most common defect is clearance to combustibles. Clearance to combustibles, guys, is so important, right? I went into a client's house yesterday, and they had a gorgeous mantelpiece that was from a house in DC. The house was in Tacoma Park. It was passed down to him from the past owner. The clearance between the fireplace opening and this gorgeous mantle that he has to keep was 1.5 inches. Do you know what the clearance to combustible right here is? 0. Do you know what it should be? Depends on the firebox size. So if the firebox is less than 36 square feet, inches, okay, it's 8. If it's greater than, it should be 10. Does anyone know what the hearth size should be? Now this floor is tile, so that's okay. But sometimes you go into these houses and the hearths are like 6 inches. So it's 18 to 20 inches. Okay, 18 is if the firebox is less than 36 square inches, okay? If it's greater than, it must be 20. So if the firebox is 36 inches wide, the hearth must be 20. 20-inch depth, okay? Most houses you're gonna walk into, the hearths are not the right size. And they just got new floors and they don't want to cut the floors, right? Has anyone gone to a house and you go to the basement and you look up where the fireplace is and the hearth extension? Does everyone know what a hearth extension is? A hearth extension should be, it should be 20, it's never 20, but it also should be 3 inches or 4 inches of solid concrete that is poured from the front of the hearth extension through to the underneath the firebox floor. None of them are. If you go down to the basement, you can usually see the wood slats that held up when they did do the pour for the hearth extension, or where they put bricks for the hearth extension. If there is wood on the underside of the hearth extension, it needs to be removed. Most home inspectors don't catch that. I get probably 5 to 6 home inspection reports a week saying, can you read this and tell me what I need to do? It's never in there, ever. So adding and checking when you go down to the basement and you're checking that furnace and hot water heater, just look up. There should be a framed hearth extension. That's if the furnace and hot water heater are in the same chimney as the fireplace, right? The hearth extension will show you that there's still wood on it. And sometimes you can find burn marks where the embers went into the gap between the firebox and the hearthstone that the kitchen guys put in, right? Oh, when I had my kitchen redone, we took the same piece of quartz. No, quartz is not allowed on the hearth. Man-made. It is not allowed on the hearth. It is not allowed on the fireplace surround, meeting the fireplace opening. But there's a lot of times where you'll see the kitchen and the same stone that's in the kitchen is on the fireplace floor. Make sure that seam between the hearthstone and the firebox floor is sealed. Because if you go down to the basement and you look up, you'll see a charred board right along that line. And that means embers are going down when they're sweeping out the embers that they think are not hot anymore. It's going down in that crack. We had a job in DC where it was a row home, no basement, on crawl space. We remodeled, relined the fireplace a year ago. And they called and they said, every time we burn, like 2 days later, we have a smell. I said, well, that's weird. Can you come look? The first thing I walked in, I looked at the pictures from when we did the job versus when I walked in. I said, well, who changed your facade? Oh, the kitchen people did 3 months ago. Okay. Well, every time they were sweeping all their ash out of the firebox, it was falling in between the hearthstone and the firebox. And because it was a crawl space, there is airflow. What happened? Half the family room subfloor was on fire for months. Guess who's responsible? Not me. The kitchen people. Because not only did they take off the old bricks that were there, when they removed the bricks off of the hearth extension, because it was a 1940s house, there wasn't a hearth extension. when they took out the bricks to put the stone, they sat it on the subfloor. So please make sure you are checking your hearth extensions, the framing, what material is under the hearth, what the material is on the hearth. If it is quartz, it is not allowed to be on the fireplace. It will burn. It will burn. Clearance to combustibles. Any questions? Yes.
Christina, we do have a question here from the online audience. You've been talking about this ratio of the height of the chimney, height of the firebox
Yeah.
to the width. And this person is wondering, can we solve that by raising the floor?
Absolutely. So the cheapest way to fix the reversal is to add fire brick under the fireplace grate. That's the cheapest way to fix it. Now, it doesn't mean the chimney doesn't need to be lined. It's a quick way to raise the fire, get more airflow underneath the grate, and you're bringing the fire that much closer to the very tall height of the firebox. So the answer is yes. You can raise the feet of the grate, your fireplace grate, you add fire brick under the 4 feet and lift it up. Any other questions?
Yeah, do you have any comment about the synthetic stone that we're now seeing being used as facades around fireboxes?
Yeah, I keep seeing it burned. Yes, you are not supposed to use man-made stone on fireplace surrounds. You are also not supposed to use cement board. I know it's doesn't make sense, but there are fibers in Durarock cement board that can still catch fire. Okay, so if a homeowner has the facade redone and they glue whatever stone tile to the structure, okay, they cannot be using Durarock cement board. All right, the Durarock tile board is still flammable. All right, you can use Hardy backer board, not Durarock cement board. Okay, you guys know the difference? One's gray, one's cream, one's thinner, one's thicker. You can look it up.
So somebody's trying to understand what you're saying about this width versus height thing.
Okay.
His comment is based on what you said a second ago. So it's not the ratio of the opening's height versus its width that's critical. It's the location of the fire in the firebox.
It's a combination of a few things. So I can't honestly tell you that the chimney that's this tall in the first picture won't work, right? If you look at the grates, you can already see that the floor is raised 1 fire brick. So it's already raised 3 inches. Technically, if I wanted to try to get this fireplace to work, there's something called a smoke guard, which is a black 3, 4, or 6 inch shield that can go across the opening to reduce the height without having to actually rebuild the lintel. Okay, it's a cheaper way of reducing the opening without having to rebuild the whole facade. In this case, if the chimney is lined and the firebox is raised, the chance that it will draw properly and you can keep the same aesthetic visually is fine. But you have to make sure that the chimney, based on the size of the fireplace, that it has the right size flue that's positively drawing. Does that make sense? So just because this fireplace height is not what we're used to, doesn't mean that it's never going to work. It means we need to do a few more things to try to get it to work without back puffing, right? Lifting the floor. They already lifted the floor 1 course of brick. I probably would have lifted the floor 3 courses of brick, right? But some people don't like the way that that looks. And if they don't like the way it looks, what they can do is take little pieces of brick, like feet, and cut. We usually take the fire brick, cut it in 4, and we stack it up to just lift the fireplace grate. On Amazon, there's a fireplace grate that has 7-inch feet. You could just buy that. Or if you know an iron guy that can weld little feet on top of your grate, that will lift your grate 2 to 4, I would say 4 to 6 inches in most cases. As long as that grate is lifted and the chimney liner is the correct size for the measurements of the firebox, that chimney will still work without modifying the lintel. If it doesn't work, I would add a smoke guard. Those are the cheapest ways to try to fix this problem. A liner, raise the floor, or put a smoke guard in.
Every once in a while, specifically in very old houses,
Yes.
we see very narrow, very tall, very shallow fireplaces.
Yep.
And everybody asks, can I put an insert in that? My answer has been no, because that's not a wood burning fireplace. It's a coal fireplace.
So there is a company called Valor that sells the repeat of the coal fireplace. So if you have a fireplace that looks like number one, where the height is very tall, skinny, not very deep, there's a fireplace, a gas insert made by Valor, which is a repeat of the coal burner. Okay, so there are gas insert options. We did like 6 of them in DuPont a few months ago, where it looks like a gas insert. They're tall, they're skinny, they have the same shape and design of the coal burner that does fit in these type of fireplaces. So these fireplaces can be convertible, but I will tell you it's a fortune. So one gas insert in a house like this, you have to run 2 3-inch aluminum pipes down that flue. Gas there, you need to get electric there, and more than likely the trim kit on the gas insert will not cover the height of the opening. So what do? You build up the floor to meet the size of the surround panel and you pop it in place. It's going to run you between $10,000 and $17,000 per gas insert install. Gas line, electric, the appliance itself, the liner. Questions?
Is back puffing, is that a technical term?
Backdrafting. Back puffing is kind of my lingo. Sorry. Backdrafting is the proper etiquette. Backdraft, yes, sir.
Is there an issue with paint
Yeah,
on the outer surface and not the inside of the chamber, but
great question. Paint on the outer surface is not as much of a concern as the wrong paint on the inside surface. We are seeing a lot of people, especially before the home goes up for sale, paint that interior of the firebox black. Why? Because they have water stains dripping down the right side from the right shoulder. They have something happening over here. So they're just trying to make it look pretty before they put the house on the market. It's okay to paint the facade. It's okay to paint the firebox, but it needs to be special high heat paint. No, not for the outside. The outside needs to be a masonry paint. The problem is they take the same latex paint that they were using for the bathroom because they have a 1/4 gallon sitting in the basement and they just smack it on there. It's really not going to catch on fire. It's on the outside surface of the facade. Are we talking about the interior facade or are we talking about the outside of the house?
no, on the inside of the house.
It's okay if it's painted. Yes, yes. Yes, sir.
As I understand, not all very tall, shallow fireboxes are a problem. Can you speak to a Rumford?
Okay.
Okay.
A Rumford is a different style fireplace. So Rumfords are specifically designed to be tall, skinny, narrow, very small back wall. The chance that you will find someone today that knows how to build a Rumford is 1 in 1,000. We have a lot of fake me out masons that see a YouTube video and think that they can build a Rumford. Rumfords are specifically designed to be tall, skinny back wall, and there's a mathematical equation to the way that it's designed that it does work. Okay, and it usually means that the smoke chamber is shaped a certain way to funnel the smoke quickly, and usually the smoke chambers are very tall and skinny. Okay.
All right, so we have another comment here,
Yeah.
a question. So when you install an insert with a flue liner, do you grout the flue liner for the entire height of the chimney?
With terracotta or stainless, what are we talking about? So is this, okay, repeat the question, please.
There, you want to turn on your camera, turn on your mic?
Sure, I
repeat
had
the
to get my
question?
mouse working.
Hi.
Hi, the question is between the flue and the flue liner. So for example, if you got a 12 by 12 chimney flue, and you're putting a 6-inch liner in, I used to be a contractor, and when they installed that, they sealed it at the bottom with like a balloon, and then they put grout down the entire length of the chimney in order to allow the flue to operate at a warmer temperature when they were using the gas insert.
Okay, so I believe what you were talking about, if we're talking about sealing inside the flue, that is a different application. That's called a heat shield process. That is where you drop a balloon down the flue from the top on a wench at the top. You drop the balloon down to the smoke chamber. You have a wench at the top of the chimney. You pour cement in and you crank that balloon through the flue, and it coats the existing terracotta lining, and it's supposed to fill the gaps in the terracotta lining. Is that what you're asking?
No, what they actually did is they grouted around the 6-inch liner so that it would make it more energy efficient. I guess to keep the flue warmer so it would vent better.
Okay, so if you're installing a stainless steel liner at the bottom, so you have your firebox. Above your firebox, you have a triangular space, which is called the smoke chamber. When you bring the liner down, how we do it is we stuff wool around that liner in the smoke chamber, and then we coat around where the stainless steel meets the masonry chamber with a high heat fibered cement. Once that seal is in place, then we pour insulation between the liner and the masonry chimney to insulate the outer core of that liner.
All the way to the cap?
All the way to the crown, yes.
Okay, so you use like a pourable type material, not necessarily something that's pumped in.
It's not pumped in. It's hand mixed and then poured in to essentially, if you have a 13 by 13 or a 12 by 12 terracotta and you have a 10 or 12-inch liner, the 4 triangular corners inside that masonry chimney, we pour insulation in those 4 corners to fill the airspace between the liner.
I guess that would be especially advisable if you had an old unlined chimney.
That is correct. So
Okay,
the
thank you.
benefit of insulating the chimney, especially in older homes, or in, homes that the mortar's decaying and it's very granular mortar, is when you insulate the core of the chimney, you're actually filling all the voids between the brick, like the mortar joints that came out of the brick on the inside of the chimney. You're structurally like sealing all of those areas on the inside of the chimney. So older homes that don't have terracotta in the flue and it's just a brick hole in that entire space, insulating that chimney is super important.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Sure. We use a Thermix. It is a vermiculite and concrete mix. So it looks like teeny styrofoam balls, and you mix it with a little bit of concrete, and then we water it. And it almost, when you pour it in, it goes in like canned foam. It expands and fills all the holes, and then it dries in about 2 hours. Any other questions? All right, we're going to move on. All right, other common defects, firebox. So when you look into a masonry chimney and you see firebox, the bricks cracking. If they are not fire brick, and in older homes, you're going to see normal red brick in the fireplace. Usually behind the fire on the back wall, where the grate is pushed up against it, you'll see the red bricks are starting to break down and crack, okay? If you see a firebox with a crack down the back wall, go to the outside of the house and see if you see that same crack on the outside of the house in the same location. Why? Because heat transfer and thermal shock. So usually if there was a slammer, like we talked about, a wood stove slammed in there and they were burning it for years and years and years, and it's an exterior chimney where there's no insulation in that chimney, the thermal shock from the back wall, if there is not an airspace between the fire brick and the actual brick structure, it will crack both the fire brick and the structure in the back. I just did a job the other day where I put a flashlight up against fire brick and I could see outside. Okay, because the way the chimney was detaching from the house and the daylight where the siding met the chimney was literally peeking right through in the left corner of the wall. Okay. We are seeing a lot of chimneys disconnecting from the house, like a lot. What are some signs that you can tell that the chimney is separating from the house? The caulking line is now a ½ inch back from the J channel on the siding. When you go into the firebox, the seam between the hearth and the side brick walls of the firebox are starting to crack. You can stick your fingernail in there. Those are all signs that the chimney is settling. And when it settles, it tips back and the whole thing is separating. Usually, sometimes you don't see evidence from the outside, but you can tell somebody went and changed the eave boards on both sides of the chimney at the top and then put like a big hole of caulk right below that to kind of hide it. All right, if you are an inspector that goes into the attic, you can usually tell there's water drips or there's signs of moisture on those pieces of framing that are right next to the chimney in the attic. Okay, damper defects. How many times do you go in and you can't open the damper? You can't open the damper because so much water got in there that it comes off alignment, pieces of debris fall on the backside of the damper, it gets twisted a little bit, okay? What you're gonna see is if they take this damper out, nobody's ever gonna remove the damper frame. They're just gonna remove the damper flap. And then the new thing is to put a damper that opens and closes from the top of the chimney. If there is a gas fireplace in the firebox and there's a top mounted damper with a cable that comes down, it is a big no-no. You are not allowed to have a top damper with gas logs. Why? Because someone might fully close it. And if they fully close it, there's still what? A pilot running, right? If there is a top damper, you cannot have gas logs. They need to go back and put a cast iron damper in the throat of the fireplace. Why is the cast iron damper so important? And in Montgomery County, it's a code requirement for gas logs. Does anyone know why? You can fixate it in the open position, right? The other benefit, guys, is it's cast iron. If you have a big open throat, where's all your heat going? Up and out. If you have a cast iron damper in the throat, it's radiating the heat back into the house. Okay? And there's a little clip that goes on it that can't be fully closed. This is what a smoke chamber, a corbelled smoke chamber looks like in a masonry chimney. If you see this, when you stick your camera up there or when you stick your phone or to take a picture, okay, having all these open corbels or open gaps in between the brick does not make the chimney have a correct draw. Okay, it's like a reverse funnel. All right, so when we say we're going to install a liner in the fireplace and then parge the smoke chamber, we coat all of this area with a smooth white parge. If you go and you do an inspection in a chimney that has a liner with parge, and this is all white, but you see brown spots in that fresh white parge, you know what that is? Water. Water. Usually when you see spots or white efflorescence forming in this area, the water is usually coming from the shoulder or the rake of the chimney. Any questions? Whoa. Dirty flues. Okay, so this is a fireplace, firebox that had a slammer in it for the past 20 years. And they were just burning that stove. That is 3rd degree creosote. Does anyone know what the different levels of creosote are? So when it's light and fluffy, it's stage 1. When it starts to look pillowy, it's stage 2. When it has a shiny glaze to it, it is stage 3. Between stage 2 and stage 3 is when chimney fires happen. This chimney had multiple chimney fires, year after year after year after year. Even if I came to sweep this chimney, I will never remove all of this. It's not possible because terracotta is porous and there's no way I'm getting it out of the terracotta. There's a company that will sell you a PCR cleaning for $1,500. You're better off just taking it out and relining the flue. Okay? Removing the terracotta. This pipe right here, you know what that is? An oil furnace. Oil furnaces have very large creosote buildups inside of them. That's why when we talked about converting an appliance, we were converting from oil to gas. This is why we don't want to run that brand new gas furnace into that chimney. Yes, sir.
Can you reline a level 3 creosote
Absolutely.
and without taking out the creosote?
So what we do is we actually sweep it a few times first to remove whatever we can get out and also to control dust and the sit down in the house. And then we will break out the flue from this point all the way up, shatter the 8x13 terracotta. And then the smoke chamber, they will take literally a demo hammer and chisel as much of this off as possible till they hit the brick. And then it will be recoated with a high heat fibered cement about 2 inches thick. All right. We can't keep any of this in the newly lined chimney because it will ignite again. So yes, you can line this chimney. Masonry chimneys. The first picture is a masonry chimney with no terracotta lining. Installing a liner in here and insulating the chimney will structurally help this chimney. Do you see how most of the mortar joints are gone on the inside? There's really not much structure left. So this chimney needs a liner and insulation. The next picture that says spalling. Does everyone know what spalling means? It means when brick or clay absorbs too much water, it starts to flake or peel or crack. So this is actually terracotta lining spalling. This is at the top of the chimney. This is because the chimney did not have a cap. Okay, even it can happen if you have a cap. These days with wind-induced rain, we are still seeing a significant amount of water inside of the terracotta. The next picture is cracked. So you can see here that a whole piece of terracotta broke off and cracked, and you can see the actual masonry structure behind it. This is why a level 2 is important, because there's no way you can see this with your naked eye. There's no way. The best bet is you can take a picture from the bottom But if you're on that roof and you carry a little screwdriver in your pocket, unscrew the 4 screws on that cap, look down, take a picture. If those terracotta flues are not in perfect alignment, you can usually see the shifts in the terracotta. You can see the gaps. You don't need a fancy camera to find this most of the time if it's a straight shot. Okay? So if you're going to the top, take a picture. Open mortar joint. So this is a cracked flue tile. This is an open mortar joint where it has cement, right? But there's gaps where you can stick your fingers through. The problem is when there's a gap between terracotta, where's the soot going? On the outside of the terracotta. That is impossible to clean. You can't clean the backside of the terracotta inside of a brick chimney. It's just not possible. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I've been thinking about, what was stated earlier about sending a camera down, various ways to send it. If I just have my camera and I shine a flashlight and I see some cracks at the top, whatever, 1/5 of the flue, that's enough to say this.
You
whole chimney
only
needs to be
need
in-
one gap, one crack,
Yeah.
one shift.
Okay.
And if you take a picture going down from the top, it's very obvious that every 24 inches, there's going to be a little offset, a little crack, mortar there, a crack, a vertical crack in the tile. You only need one. And I will be honest with you, it's a lot easier to find it at the top than it is at the bottom. So if you're already on that roof, you have someone that's climbing for you, have them unscrew that cap, take it off, take a picture. If it's a multi-flue, if there's a fireplace and a furnace, take a picture of both. All of you take pictures of the wash or the crown on the top of the chimney, right?
Yep.
If there's a crack in the crown, if there's a separation or a lift in the crown, if the terracotta sticking out of the crown has a crack, you're already there. Yes. Try me. Yes.
Can't hear.
Someone's talking. Hello?
Okay, so we got a question about, if there's a gas log with a damper on top of the flue,
Yeah,
you're saying that's not allowed?
no.
So this question was, so what would you say about that? How would a home inspector report that?
A top mount damper is not allowed or permitted on an open fire gas log. Recommend installing a cast iron throat damper.
No, you think?
Or hire a licensed chimney professional to tell you what I'm telling you. Does that answer your question? Okay, wonderful. All right, common defects in a prefab. We kind of went over this in the beginning. A rusted chase. That is what it looks like. Okay. 2 flues, same height, pipes rusted, caulked around the flashing many times. This is a prefab in a brick structure. This is a much safer installation. Okay. Prefabs in a brick structure are usually in townhouse communities in the 80s, where they thought they were going to build brick chimneys and they realized that they found some salesperson that sells them prefabs for $2,000 a pop, and it was cheaper than rebuilding the firebox. Okay, so the structure is brick. The interior is usually brick, but you won't know unless you pop that chase cover off. Some of these chase covers, you can literally lift them up and look inside. Okay, I'm not saying to do it because then you don't want to have to put it back when it pops off. But there are ways to see inside of them. A lot of these brick chases for prefab fireplaces, some of them have, get ready, the electrical wires running in there, plumbing running in there, HVAC, ductwork, running in there from the first to second floor. So level 3 inspections are important. That's how we would find out. Interior prefabricated panels. So this is a prefabricated firebox that has a gas starter in it. 50% of prefabs are not rated for gas. Not all prefabricated fireplaces can vent gas. How do you know? Find the data plate and look it up. Or if you look on the side walls on the left and the right, if there's a little quarter-size button indent on the panel walls, it's a cutout for gas. If the panels do not have a little quarter-size cutout in the wall, it's gonna be the same wall, but it's gonna have a little indent that's round. It's rated for gas. If it doesn't have one, you're not allowed to put gas in there. Okay? Which usually means if you put a gas appliance, like a gas starter, do you know why people want gas starters? Because they went and found wood in their backyard and it's wet, and the wife doesn't know how to light the fire, and it takes them too long to get it started, and until they get heat, there's a backdraft. Usually if you open a prefabricated damper, you're just gonna feel whoosh of cold air right in your face. It's because there's backdraft, and it's back puffing, not a technical term. Okay. All right. So yes.
So are you familiar with a product that claims you should burn every so often to keep the creosote down? You ever heard of that?
Yes. It's at Walmart, guys. And it's called a cleaning fire log. And it looks like a Duraflame log. And it says if you burn this, it cleans your flue. It's a sales gimmick. It's called marketing. Did a good job. It does not work. It's essentially burning compressed sawdust with a lot of chemicals in your flue. It does not work. Don't recommend it because you won't sound smart.
So have you ever heard of somebody burning the chimney intentionally to clean the creosote out?
Yes. So if you burn the fire correctly, you should be self-cleaning, technically. If you're using dry wood, no chemical logs, no fat wood, let me tell you about fat wood. Fat wood is dipped in wax. If you light your fat wood, it is just black soot coming up, okay? Fat wood works great for your outdoor fireplace. Don't use fat wood inside, all right? So it's not, they can try to burn, unless you really know what kind of wood you have and you have a moisture meter and you're testing your wood, or your wood that you're buying is kilned wood, you are not self-cleaning your flue.
Well, I'm talking about when they already have a buildup of creosote in the chimney and the solution is to start a chimney fire.
I would not be in business if that was what we recommended. So no, I don't recommend that. If they have regular terracotta, they can try to burn clean a few fires, but there's a reason why they have a buildup of creosote. And it's probably because they haven't been burning correctly. So to think that they know how to burn and that they're going to burn it out, I wouldn't do it. No. Yes, sir.
Well, the other factor with wood stoves or, the creosote.
Yep.
Wood stoves is dampering back at night.
If you have a catalyst, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you're turning down the airflow to it and it smolders all night. That builds up the creosote as well.
That is correct. And it depends on what type of stove you have, right? If you have a catalyst stove, it works a little bit differently. But yes, when you smother the fire and it's not as hot, it doesn't burn as clean, essentially. Yes.
One other, when it comes to the prefabricated fireplaces, those that are able to to run with gas, you'll find that button on either side, correct?
You will find one on either side.
Either side.
That's correct. Now, I will tell you, you know, back in the day, like 5 years ago, these walls were replaceable, okay? You could buy an aftermarket wall. You could cut the floor panel on the left, the right, and the back side, and you could replace the panels, okay? If the panels were replaced, the chance that the original panel did or did not have that button is a possibility. So I will tell you, don't ever say exactly this is okay for gas or it's not. Your note should say, please reference the install manual for your Majestic blah, 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 blah. Whatever unit it is. Your data plate will be found here, here, or on the other side. Okay? Take a picture of the data plate. If you want to tell them what model they have, tell them to look up on Google the installation manual for that unit. Don't ever write, from my personal opinion, this is not rated for gas. Always reference back to the install manual. Questions? Prefabs? Gas? Not gas? Gas starter? So those hooks in the back of the wall were the original hooks to hold the fireplace grate that came with the unit. Most prefabs came with a grate. Most grates that come with it, they'll dip after the 15th burn, okay? And they'll be sitting on the floor, all right? Most people will go and buy an aftermarket fireplace grate, and it's fine, but they're usually not rated to be with a prefab. It's a whole nother conversation. We'll keep going. Disconnected sections. You can look from the bottom. Sometimes the damper opens towards you. Sometimes the damper flips, you know, butterflies, okay? Usually, if you look up in there and you see a pipe section separated like that, don't use it. Tell them, I see a disconnected pipe. This chimney is non-operational, okay? Until you have a level 2 safety inspection to verify. Okay, common defects in appliance flues. So, this is called the thimble or the crock that you see in the basement where the furnace and hot water heater go into the wall. Most of the time, you will see two holes. You will see a larger hole on the bottom where the furnace or boiler goes in, and then you'll see a smaller hole right above it that the hot water heater goes into. If you see two crocks, 99% chance it is not lined. New code WSSC 2017 says any exterior masonry chimney must be lined before installing a new appliance. So, what does that mean? I had somebody earlier ask me, is it true that you're only allowed to have one flue coming out of the wall? The answer is yes. There are some companies that will put in what's called a double T. So it's two T's stacked on top of each other inside of the wall where the T snouts come out like two holes, like it used to, and the appliances go into both of them. The chance that you will find the company that does that is very slim. The only way you know if the chimney is lined is if it holds a UL sticker on the flue crock. So usually they break the terracotta thimble, they run a metal sleeve into the wall, and that metal sleeve or the piece of pipe that's coming out of it should have a UL sticker. UL stands for Underwriter Laboratory. Now, don't take a picture of the B-vent connector pipe UL sticker and say that the chimney is lined because I found a sticker on the connector pipe. The connector pipe, B-vent connector pipe. Does everyone know what the difference between C-vent and B-vent is? C vent is single wall connector. B vent is double wall connector. If you buy B vent from Ari Michael or any of the supply houses, there is a UL listing on that piece of connector. That does not mean that the flue is lined. Okay, they could have just, the HVAC company that replaced the furnace or the hot water heater, put new connectors in, and when they bought them, it had a UL sticker on it. Okay, the UL sticker for the liner must be on the wall collar or on the liner itself. Code requires that if the chimney is lined, that the chimney liner must protrude out of the wall at a minimum of 1 inch. So you should be able to see the liner from the inside. Questions? Okay. Now, what happens when one of the flues is orphaned? What does that mean? That means that the hot water heater was changed to tankless and only the furnace vents into the chimney, or the furnace was replaced to high efficiency, now goes out with 2 white PVC pipes out the side of the house, and just the hot water heater is venting into the chimney. What's the problem with just the hot water heater venting into a chimney? What creates the condensation? That's correct. The existing terracotta clay is now oversized for the amount of BTU gases flowing through it. So the hot water heater is a 40-gallon. It has 38,000 BTUs. 38,000 BTUs venting up 35 feet of 8 by 13 terracotta. Those gases aren't making it to the top, y'all. They're not. So when you go outside and you look at the chimney, and about 12 feet down in the middle of the chimney, there's white efflorescence forming. Why? Because all the gases from that hot water heater are hitting it about roofline level where the temperature difference changes, right? And all the condensation is building up at that point. So there's a lot of visual ways to identify problems without having a camera going in the chimney, okay? So if they orphaned the hot water heater and now the hot water heater is only venting in there, that hot water heater needs what size pipe to come off of it? What are we finding? We're finding 3s, y'all. We're finding 3s all over the place. 3-inch connector pipe coming off that 15-year-old 40-gallon hot water heater is not okay. Other signs, when you go into the basement and you look at the connectors and there's white dripping coming out of the seams of the connector pipe. What does that mean? Condensation. It's dripping back. All right. The pitch of the connectors is also super important. So from the top of the hot water heater tank, if the connector's going like this into the crock, it's too flat. Yes, that's right. Good job. You need to have a rise on the pitch of your connectors. Okay, so usually when we do a liner and there's 2 holes in the wall, we always will cement closed the bottom crock or thimble, whatever you want to call it, and we will enlarge or open the upper crock. Why? Because we're trying to get better pitch on the run. Okay. Another way to identify, if you see new cement around these holes, there may be something in there. There may be a double T in there. If you see that they cut a huge amount of brick out, they may have put double T's in there. But taking a picture and identifying that wall, whether it's new cement or not new cement, either one, you can usually tell when there was a patch done around the appliance flue. There's a lot of companies that are famous for buying a T, sticking it in the wall, cementing around it. and connecting those two appliances to the T. Do you know what side the furnace should go in and what side the hot water heater should go in? That's correct. The furnace, the heavier BTU push needs to be on the end of the T. The hot water goes on the T snout side. Okay? If it's reversed, that hot water heater keeps blowing out and they can't figure out why. Okay?
So
Yes.
Christina, if we imagine this orphaned water heater running in the summertime, is that still a problem?
It's a
Isn't it undersized for the isn't the flue gonna be oversized for the water heater? Let me read it to you.
No.
Let me read it to you. Isn't it, he's talking about the orphaned water heater.
Uh-huh.
Isn't it undersized all summer or when the furnace is not in use?
Well, if it's orphaned, there would not be a furnace.
I think you're asking just in the summertime, when the furnace is not on and running.
Uh-huh.
That water heater, isn't that acting like it's an orphaned furnace because there's no extra heat pushing up with it through the flue?
No, either way, the flue needs to be lined. The flue will need to be lined, whether it's two appliances or one. I'm just explaining that if a furnace was taken out and upgraded to high efficiency, and it's just the hot water heater venting, right? That flue tile that's in the existing chimney that used to vent two appliances is now too big for the hot water heater. If a licensed HVAC contractor pulled a permit, it would fail at its inspection time. If they didn't pull a permit and you're the home inspector going in there to inspect after the flipper just flipped the house, right? You need to be looking for these things because they try to avoid permit process. The permit process would have caught that the chimney wasn't lined. Yes.
So when you have a furnace and a water heater together.
Yeah.
Venting out correctly.
Yeah.
Because the furnace is running.
Yes.
Right? So it's the 6-inch. So what they're asking is, when you have that situation, but throughout the whole summer, when you don't use the furnace, does the water heater only being the one pushing out, is that considered undersized at that point for that whole summer where the furnace is not running and helping with the background?
If the chimney was inspected, we would recommend for it to be lined. So technically, yes, when the furnace is not running, the hot water heater is still trying to vent on its own.
No, I mean like brand new, right? You have a 6-inch flue
Mhm.
on a furnace and a water heater, brand new.
Yep.
It's not needing relining or anything like this, right? If the furnace is not running for the whole summer,
Mhm.
does that mean that the water heater is not creating enough draft to get out?
No, the flue doesn't have an exterior temperature difference in the summer. So it's probably drawing just fine, right? However, if the furnace and hot water heater was recently installed, if it was done by a licensed contractor, the licensed contractor would have brought in a chimney company. So here's what happened, guys. What happened was the HVAC contractors used to not ever call a chimney company. They would try to sell their appliances and get out, okay? And too many situations where they just put in a $15,000 furnace and hot water heater, and the first cold night, it shuts down, or the safety switch flips it, okay? So WSSC said, okay, no more of this, right? Every time you want to pull a mechanical permit for a new appliance, we have to have a chimney company certify that the chimney is clear of defects, has no blockages, and can properly vent the gases from point A to point B. So if the HVAC company is a licensed company that's pulling the permits for their installs, we have to be brought in per WSSC. If they had it done by cousin Joe or my brother's sister Mike or whoever, right? The chances that they got a chimney liner is very slim. So the point for you guys as home inspectors is if you see that the install date on the furnace and or hot water heater was after July 2017, the chimney must be lined. if it's an exterior chimney. Okay, the rule does not apply if it's an interior chimney. Okay, now the rule doesn't apply for WSSC if it's not an interior chimney, but WSSC still says have licensed chimney professional inspect and verify that appliance flue is in safe working order. I know that was a lot, but hope that answered the question.
No, that was great because that's something that happens to us a lot on the field.
Oh, I know.
Is we say something
Uh-huh.
and then they ask a question just like the person online did
Uh-huh.
that makes logical sense. And if we don't have an answer, we look stupid. So this helps us give us an answer.
Okay.
So that's perfect. Thank you.
So there is a white paper, if you guys Google WSSC, July 2017 chimney white paper, okay? It will be I think a 17-page document that clarifies and specifies the need for chimney inspection or chimney checks when changing appliances. The long story short is just write in your thing, write in your report, have licensed chimney clean and inspect both fireplace and appliance flue because it shares the same chimney. All right, then we're checking it all, okay? Any other questions? Great. All right, common defects. Now we talked about appliances venting into masonry chimneys, right, with terracotta linings and needing liners. What is this? That is a B-vent chimney stack.
3 o'clock.
So I will tell you, every HVAC company in Montgomery County just figured out that they need to have these checked. Now, when you go into the basement,
You have 5 minutes.
yeah, I have 5 minutes? Okay, great. All right, so B-vent chimney stacks are also known as chimneys. They usually run up through the middle of the house, usually on the back side of the ridge or the ridge vent, okay? If you're walking the roof and you see that it doesn't have a cap, the pipe is rusted, the caulk seal around the roof boot is broken, okay? Say something, document it and say something. All right, clearance to combustibles, you're usually going to find defects in the attic. Go into the attic. If you go in the attic and you look up between the B-vent, you see daylight, guess what? There's no caulk on that seal. All right, just like this one, you see the daylight? All right, also, they just re-insulated their attic. They ran new boards and put insulation around the pipe. In the attic, what should be around this pipe? An attic insulation shield, which is a piece of metal that goes around the pipe that shields the blown in or foam insulation from ever touching that pipe. That is a fail. That is a fail. Okay, we talked about clearance to combustibles. So clearance to B-vent, clearance to connector pipe. When there's drywall or the connector pipe goes through the wall that they just added a bedroom to the closet, right? And the pipe is going through the drywall. How many inches does it need? Thank you. Thank you. So look for a 6-inch clearance on C-vent connectors unless using B-vent, which in case you needs a 1-inch that is required. Okay. I'm going to just speed it up a little bit because we're running out of time. All right. We talked about pitch and proper pitch, correct pitch. So this is the liner coming out of the wall. This is how you can tell that somebody broke out the 2 crocks in the wall. You see how that's like patch cement painted over? This other picture is a B-vent T coming down from the roof. If you see that much water at the bottom of the T, you know that B-vent probably needs to be replaced because the water, probably the little cheap little aluminum cap that it came with, blew off 7 years ago and it's been wide open. Okay. God knows what else you'll find in there. We have found them all types of things. Okay, vent connectors too long. At what point does the diameter of the liner need to be increased because the length of the connectors are way, 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 way too long. Now, if the connectors are greater than 6 feet long, you need to jump to the next size. So if coming off the furnace is a 4-inch and it runs at the 6 feet point, it needs to enlarge to a 5. If it's 6 more feet to that crock, you might want to remodel the house and change the location of the furnace, but it needs to increase again. Okay, so if you wonder why it starts at 4, but coming out of the chimney is a 6, it's usually because it's greater than 6 feet away. Okay, any questions? I'm moving on. Okay, masonry chimney WSSC. So recommend that all your customers have CO2 detectors, please. Usually now, if you put in a gas fireplace, if you got a new furnace, if you got a new hot water heater, if they pulled a permit, the inspector will look for the CO2 detector. If you don't see a CO2 detector in the house and the furnace is new, they have brand new gas logs, guess what? It probably wasn't permitted. Okay. Masonry chimney, when you go in the attic and you find that. Whoa. First picture is called spalling. That means that the chimney has taken on too much water, the bricks are very porous, and the chimney is starting to spall. Okay, you will see signs of white efflorescence, hence picture 2. White efflorescence is bleeding down the inside of the chimney. It could be A, from a broken crown, but very unlikely. 2, most likely the flashing is failing. Okay, 3, the bricks at the top have spalled, but there's so many spalled bricks that so much water is bleeding in. If I saw this picture and I couldn't see the roof and I had to guess what it was, flashing. If you see in the firebox where water is coming in straight where the lintel is in a masonry firebox, or you see white efflorescence on the brick facade inside, 90% chance it's the flashing. If you ever open up a fireplace glass doors and you look in the lintel, does anyone know what it means when it delaminates? Okay. It means that the water has been leaking in so much that the lintel is no longer, 1/4 of an inch. It's 1/2 inch and it looks like breaking thin pieces of metal. Okay. It can happen on doorways, windows, when you see Z cracks coming off of the brick. That means that the lintel is more than likely delaminating or moving. This is efflorescence on a brick chimney. This is a crown. Any questions? Chimney caps, exterior. I need to wrap it up. Okay. Exterior chimney caps. So this is a broken crown. Okay. When we do crowns now, we put expansion joints between the crown and the flue tile. So if you go to houses and you see a caulk rim around your exterior terracotta, that means that the crown was done correctly. If you do not see a caulk like this one or this one, you do not see a caulk line around the crown, that means that they poured the crown directly up against the flue tile, and when it expands, what's going to happen? The crown's going to crack. Same thing, exterior spalling, shoulder. So that's actually a shoulder of the chimney, the first picture, where the water runs down off the roof, hits the shoulder. You will see evidence of water in the smoke chamber or in the side of the firebox. It's usually from the shoulder. So DC, oh man. So DC and Baltimore. So the neighbor next to me put a 3rd floor, but my chimney doesn't work anymore. My furnace flue keeps backdrafting and I don't know why. It was fine for the past 30 years. Well, we get there and that's their original chimney. And that's the new structure next to it. We found one where the entire new structure was burned because they just kept burning that stove and all that smoke burnt the side of the building. So now it's required that if you're doing a bump, a 3rd-story bump, that the person building the bump up is now responsible for raising the neighbor's chimney. How much does it cost? $7,000 to $14,000. You can raise it with a Class A pipe, which is a double wall stack pipe. Okay, or you can raise it with masonry, but you need engineered drawings, you need a permit. It takes 60 days to get approved, and it costs a lot of money. Okay, very common in DC right now. Structural defects. If you see a nice piece of metal between the siding and the chimney, or a 1x4 or a 1x6, you're like, ooh, they did the new siding on the house. It looks so nice. No, they were trying to hide the gap. Okay, right there. All right. If you see structural defect in the firebox, usually it happens where the facade meets the fire brick, or like we talked about on the hearth seam, it means the chimney's pulling away. If the chimney's in the garage and you see cinder block CMU base, and then the chimney goes up through the attic, but the wood is touching the chimney, guess what? Say something. Okay, we can be done. I have a whole nother conversation, but it's okay, we can be done. Any questions?
You were DC, Maryland, and Virginia?
Yes. And I will go out of my service area if somebody needs something here that has a specific problem. If you call me or text me and say, this is what I have going on, I need help, or my customer needs help, I will always help you. If you text me and we have to go out of our service area to help one of your clients, I will personally go myself.
Can you put up your contact information again?
I'm sorry, someone's talking on here.
Could you
Go
put up
ahead.
contact information again, please?
Sure. My name is Christina, el-Hage, Pretty Chimney. My cell phone number directly is 240-372-2884. Your thing's not working. It's okay. I do want to say one more thing. That's why I added this slide this year. I will tell you, a lot of people, and I'll give you percentages, 73% of homes that I walk into convert to electric fireplaces.
Yuck.
It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. But let me tell you something. It hides the problem. So when they don't want to fix the prefab, they don't want to line the chimney's been leaking and they don't want to fix it. They pop a box like this in their flue and you can't get it out to check behind it. What you do need to check, most of them are, you can pull them out, okay? But what you guys need to check for is to make sure that they have dedicated electrical lines. This is a new thing, okay? It needs to have a separate 20 amp breaker with its own 120 volt line ran specifically to the fireplace. All right, but you need to know that they are probably hiding a problem. Yeah, yes.
I'm unfamiliar with these, but they produce heat,
They produce a lot of heat.
so they're heaters.
They are very gorgeous space heaters. If it's ran with a 120 volt, it provides 5,000 BTUs. All of these units are convertible to a 240. If you run a 240 line, it produces 10,000 BTUs, which is a lot of heat. And they are gorgeous. Let me tell you.
All right, so we need to wrap it up. We just have one
Yep.
last question. You go to Anne Arundel?
If you call me, I'm coming.
Okay, all right, thanks a lot.
You're very welcome.
All right, let's take a 10-minute break and, we're running a little bit over. So let's, keep it short and, get back in here quickly. If not immediately.
You're very welcome. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, God, it's horrible. This is yours, I think.
Yeah.
Can I take this?
Sure.
Crown and, yeah, there's something called liquid crown or flex crown that they're coating these chimneys with. It's super white. And that's how you know it's wrong. because it's like literally you can stand at the top and it is blatantly white on the top and you're like, oh, they have a new crown. They had someone come and coat it. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.